Having an only child is the most selfish thing you can do. I don't care if you have birth trauma. I don't care if you got postpartum depression or anxiety. I don't care if you had to spend thousands of dollars on fertility treatments to get one. You need to have at least two. That sounded insane, right? And if you didn't know me already, you probably think you're on the wrong side of the internet. You're in enemy territory. Because what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, you have to be literally insane to actually believe or feel that anything that I just said is true. And if you agreed with any of that, I need you to get therapy, okay? You need therapy. In today's video, we are going to be talking about and debunking a lot of the things that people say are selfish about having an only child. First of all, I want to say that when it comes to having an only child, there are two camps that people can exist in. Only child by choice and only child not by choice. And it's important that we make this distinction because only child not by choice, I'm crying already. Having another baby and not being able to have that baby is one of the worst things that a woman can go through. And people who don't understand why she's only having one and call her selfish and tell her that her only child is going to be lonely and she's ruining her child's life and she's making a huge mistake without understanding why. I think those people need God and are probably the worst human beings that exist. Anybody that's gonna judge a mom for anything that she does to make her child's life better, to make her life better, those people need therapy, okay? So I need you to really understand that first and foremost, and I think anybody who's watching this video does understand that. I also want to say that I get a lot of people reaching out to me on Instagram saying that, like, my dog's gonna be a problem, isn't he? I locked him up because if I sit on the floor, he will sit on me. If you have a golden retriever, you understand that you cannot sit on the floor because he thinks he's smaller than me still. I get a lot of messages from women in European countries, mostly, telling me that they think that it's weird that only children are so stigmatized in the United States because it's very normal in Europe to have just one child. And so I think it's important to point that out and really realize that this is an American problem. And our society just hates women and mothers and children. And I don't know, just knowing that makes me feel a little bit better. I'm gonna let my dog outside real quick. Okay, so let's get into it. I have broken down a list of about 5 reasons that people will say that one and done moms are selfish, and we're going to address them, we're going to debunk them, we're going to myth bust them, and we're gonna make all of us feel better about our choice to only have one. Or if you're struggling to decide to only have one, hopefully this will give you some clarity in making that decision. So first of all, let's talk about this idea that only children are lonely. The research is clear on this, that only children are as socially developed as kids that have siblings. The main debunk that I'm gonna give for this, and my child is kind of an outlier in this situation because she doesn't go to daycare, but let's talk about the American daycare system, right? Let's talk about how most mothers have to work. Most mothers have to go back to work 3 months or earlier. That means that 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, that kid is surrounded by other children, learning how to exist with other children, learning how to share, learning how to cooperate with kids, how to play with kids, making friends. Kids in America are in daycare all the time, immediately. They come out of you and they're in daycare. I'm not saying that that's okay, and that's a whole nother conversation, but that's the reality of it, right? If your kid's in daycare, they're making friends, they're learning how to socialize, they are fine. My daughter's not in daycare, and she's not lonely whatsoever, but she really doesn't get a lot of interaction with other kids, but she's not even 2. So that's not really a big concern of mine right now. I plan to put her in preschool when she's 3. And I also plan to pay attention to the types of things that she's interested in, she's getting excited about, and get her in activities, get her in sports, have her trying things, really like getting her out in the community, having her volunteer, having her be part of our community. And as an only child parent, there is a lot more of a responsibility on you, I think, to make sure that your kid is socializing. Especially me, I live out in the middle of nowhere. And if I didn't make it a priority to at least get her into church daycare once a week, or take her to the Y with me so that she can go into the play care, stuff like that. And like making friends of my own that have children her age, which is something that I'm actively working on. There is that responsibility to make sure that the child is socialized. But any only child parent knows that, and every only child parent isn't going to just like sit in their house all day, every day with their kid and not go out and do things and not create a full life for their kid. And more importantly, at least for me, in my experience, I know that I can be a much more present, loving, involved mother to one child. And so we are best friends even now. We do activities together. We go places. Like I bring her to work with me. Like I brought her to work with me yesterday, and a coworker was like coloring with her while I was getting stuff done. She was watching Little Bear on the TV next to me while I'm working. There's so many ways to make sure that your child isn't alone. And I just think that this is such an unrealistic critique of only children, and it honestly comes from people who don't know what it's like to be an only child or don't know what it's like to have an only child. As someone who grew up in an only child household, my childhood is complicated. Don't really want to explain that to you right now, but I was alone during the weekend, every other weekend. I was an only child. And first of all, I knew how to entertain myself. And I was also in daycare and preschool and school, and I had friends and church, and I was really involved in church. I had friends over every weekend, weeknights. I would stay at friends' houses. Like I was not lonely. That's important for people to understand. Okay, number 2, the sibling bond. Only children parents are robbing their children of a sibling bond. I'm gonna tell you right now, I have 5 siblings. I know I just said I grew up an only child, and I did, but my parents are divorced. They've both been divorced four times. And so I have a lot of siblings, and I'm not really close with any of them. I don't have a sibling bond with any of my siblings. But I wanna tell you a story. My grandma died in 2016. And my mother has 2 siblings, a sister and a brother. One sibling has been excommunicated from the family because of how she handled divvying up the estate. So many people will say, in the future, who is your child gonna have when you're gone? You know, she needs siblings. Or like, who's gonna be there to like reminisce on their life with them when you're gone, and like look back on their life, and like when you die, who are they gonna have? A sibling is not a guarantee of having that. A sibling is not a guarantee that when I die and Tanner dies, she's gonna have somebody there for her. Because sibling relationships are complicated and they blow up, and suddenly you're down a sister because she can't stop making a big fuss over who gets the chest in the bedroom, who gets grandma's pearls, who's packing up a trailer with all of grandma's stuff and making her way to Colorado without telling anybody. That's just one example, right? But I feel like that's what I want to tell people when they're like, well, who is she gonna have when you die? She's gonna get married, probably. You know, man, woman, I don't care. She's gonna maybe have kids. She's gonna have friends. She doesn't need a sibling to be happy. I have siblings and I don't have any sibling bond. And I've heard from so many people that they have siblings and they hate their siblings, or they don't get along, or they live in different parts of the country and they don't talk to each other. There's no guarantee of that. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I just love seeing them like when they're kids, like playing together and stuff. Sure, that's selfish. That's about you, right? If you're like, well, it's just so cute seeing them like play together, and like, I just love watching my kids get to know each other. That's selfish. That's a selfish reason to have another kid. Like, if we're gonna be calling people selfish, like that's a you thing. That's about you. That has nothing to do with them. Maybe they want to be playing with you, but you're off thinking that they're having so much fun with their sibling that they don't need you. You ever think about that? No, probably not. Okay, point number 3. Only children are spoiled and selfish. There's no proof of this, right? There's anecdotal proof where you can be like, well, I know an only child, or every only child that I know is like a bad person or whatever, or they're selfish or spoiled. And honestly, all of this, in my opinion, comes down to bad parenting. And again, like, an only child who's going to preschool and going to school will learn how to share. They will learn how to properly engage with other people and be kind. I feel like if you're worried about your only child becoming selfish, one of the best things that you can do is go to church. I'm not religious. I talk about this a lot, but I do go to church. I have a really wonderful church community, and I grew up going to church, and it made a world of difference for me in my development and feeling like I had people in my corner, especially because my parents are divorced and were getting remarried when I was young, and it was all a big mess. My like church community was home for me. And we found a new church community that really does feel like home. So even though I'm like, I don't really know how I feel about all of it, but like I do know that I have a really strong community, and that's really important to me, and building that community for her is really important. Say what you want about Christianity or religion or whatever, but it does teach morals and values, and it teaches you how to love and care for other people. And if you're getting those messages from a young age, you're gonna be just fine. You don't have to do that through church. You can do that some other way, but making sure that you're instilling like good values in your kid is important. And that really just comes down to parenting. It has nothing to do with whether or not they have a sibling. Point number 4, that I will regret it when I'm older. I'm gonna be real with you. I won't. And I know that I won't. I'm prioritizing my mental health. I'm prioritizing my marriage. I'm prioritizing financial stability. I'm prioritizing a really strong relationship with my one child. I don't understand how I could regret doing any of those things. Everybody has that kind of visualization exercise where it's like, imagine yourself at the table in 20 years, like your Thanksgiving table or your Christmas table. How many people do you see? And I just see me and my husband and my daughter, and maybe a friend or her boyfriend or her girlfriend or whatever. And it feels complete. I don't imagine a life for myself in which I have another one. And this imaginary fear of regretting something in the future doesn't make it worth it to me to risk what I have now, because what I have now is really important and really special. Making sure that my daughter now is okay and taken care of and loved and given everything she needs, that's more important to me than this imaginary regret. And again, I think I'd be someone who regretted having another one. And you don't want to have that conversation because nobody regrets having a kid. But if that were the case, there wouldn't be a subreddit called Regretful Parents. People regret it, and I don't want to. I don't regret the one I have. I love her with all my heart, and I don't want to take that risk. Okay, point number 5, and this one's the real kicker. Okay, so if you've made it this far, just make sure you're subscribed. Make sure that you're following me on Instagram, because what is that? We're getting into it with this one, okay? This is the bread and butter. This is what people really mean. The selfish woman. The selfish woman. Selfishness gets used as a weapon against women who set boundaries and make choices for their own well-being. Nobody likes to see a woman, except for other happy women, Nobody likes to see a woman making decisions for her own well-being. And let's be real. Let's be real, okay? That is why people don't like that there are childless women. There are women that only want one, because those are selfish women. Those are women who are putting themselves first. And it's not okay for a woman to put herself first. Not in this society. It's not okay for a woman to say, you know, this isn't good for me. This doesn't work for me. I'm opting out. I'm choosing different, because we're not used to women having autonomy over their own life. And a lot of people are struggling with that, especially right now. It's clear, right? In the fight that our country is having for women to keep autonomy over their own body, taking care of my mental health, recognizing my limits, protecting my own bandwidth, showing up as a whole person and a whole mother, in being my whole self for my child, is not selfish. I am modeling self-respect for my daughter. In only having one, I am showing her that she matters. I'm gonna say that again. In only having one, I am showing my daughter that she matters, because someday she's gonna be able to make choices about her own life and what she wants to do with it. And society, men, social media, expectations should not be the driving factor for how she makes decisions about what she's going to do with her life. She should follow her heart and her intuition and do what's best for her. When my daughter grows up, I want her to be as selfish as possible. I want all little girls growing up today. I'm gonna cry. I want them to know that this world is theirs, and it was rebuilt by their mothers, by their grandmothers, by their great-grandmothers, slowly but surely rebuilt so that they can be happy and healthy and live the life that's truly in their heart. And that's it, that's all. So you really don't have to have another one. It's not a requirement. Your kid's gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay, your family's gonna thrive, and you're all gonna have a beautiful life. I love you. See you next time.